again, the one thing we know about the honourable gentleman, he is a lawyer. He should know there's a process in place. It's right that that process concludes. I hope that it's resolved promptly. But I'll say one thing, Mr. Speaker, because I tell him what is weak. I tell him what is weak is not being able to. I'll tell him, and that's not being able to stand up to people. I know he's taken some advice from Gordon Brown lately. Why doesn't he listen to a former minister in Gordon Brown's government who just said, why does the Labour Party refuse to stand up for workers in businesses like pubs and restaurants who will lose business as a result of the train strikes? Labour should stand up for working people. If he's strong, that's what he should do.
Let's get more from Westminster. Our political reporter, Katherine Forster, is waiting for us there. And, Katherine, the news that broke during that PMQs from the Prime Minister himself, that Michelle Mone has lost the Tory whip, no longer a member of the party. And interesting that Keir Starmer hadn't gone with that as his top attack line, if you like.
Yes, it is. Obviously, it was going to be a huge target for Labour. Baroness Mone allegedly has profited to the tune of £29 million from PPE contracts which we were awarded during the pandemic. He didn't start on that. He started on house building because, of course, the government have been forced to cave on the target because dozens of backbench rebels made it clear that they wouldn't get the vote through, and also they've had to back down on onshore wind. So despite Keir Starmer having lots to go on, I didn't feel he really landed any huge blows. And in terms of Baroness Mone, Rishi Sunak said he was absolutely shocked to have read of these allegations a couple of weeks ago, that it was right that she had stepped back from the House of Lords and no longer had the whip. Now, I do understand Rishi Sunak had been criticised for not having taken the whip away from her already and been criticised as weak in not doing so. I'm told that it's an automatic result of the fact that she has temporarily stepped back from the Lords rather than a decision that has been taken by the government. But despite all the things that Keir Starmer had to go on, Rishi Sunak did seem to be enjoying himself. He had strong answers on house building, although clearly it is a climb down. He went on Labour's record on house building, quoted lots of figures and made it clear that governments building not enough houses is not just the preserve of Conservative governments. This has been something that has been going on for decades.
Yeah. And interesting that Sir Keir Starmer tried the attack line of the blancmange Prime Minister, which is a new parliamentary term on me. However, very vocal support for the Prime Minister from the backbenchers. The Tories are in pretty good voice.
Yes, that was very noticeable, I thought, because Rishi Sunak has only been Prime Minister for 6 weeks. He's only had a few PMQs. Some of them he's felt a little bit on the back foot. This was not one of them. The Tory benches were packed. They were very noisy. They were very rowdy in support of Rishi Sunak, doing a very good job of painting themselves as a united party, although we know from the rebellions that they are certainly not. And on strikes, Rishi Sunak was making it clear too that the government were going to act with this minimum service legislation, which Boris Johnson promised back in 2019. It's only had one reading in Parliament so far, so obviously it's not going to help with the strikes in the short term. But he was painting the unions now as being unreasonable, and he was keen to stress that the government had accepted the recommendations of the independent pay bodies, and that in some cases public sector workers were being offered bigger pay deals than people working in the private sector.